Do you find yourself putting things off, even when you know you really should get to work? You're not alone. Procrastination is something we all battle, but the good news, it's not impossible to overcome. Today, I'm going to show you 5 key ways to change the habit of procrastination. Practical, actionable tips that will help you start getting things done and stop waiting until the last minute. Breaking tasks into smaller steps is one of the most powerful antidotes to procrastination, because procrastination often feeds on the feeling of being overwhelmed. When we look at a large project in its entirety, a research paper, a business plan, or even something as simple as reorganizing a room, the sheer size of the task can feel paralyzing. The human brain tends to interpret big, undefined goals as threats, which trigger avoidance rather than action. This is why we delay. We tell ourselves we will start tomorrow or wait for the right mood, but in reality, what we are doing is responding to the fear of tackling something that seems too big to manage. By breaking tasks down into smaller, clearly defined steps, we take that mountain and turn it into a series of small hills that we can actually climb. Consider the example of writing a long essay. If you keep saying to yourself, "I need to write my essay," the task feels vague and heavy. It is unclear where to start. Your mind races with everything from researching sources, structuring arguments, writing paragraphs, editing, and formatting. Each of those components is mixed together in one giant mental block. And instead of starting, you scroll through social media or find something else to do. But imagine if instead you broke that single phrase, "write essay," into 5 clear steps. 1. Brainstorm topics for 10 minutes. 2. Choose a thesis statement. 3. Create a rough outline. 4. Write the introduction. 5. Write one body paragraph. Suddenly, the mountain shrinks. Instead of a vague obligation, you now have bite-sized actions that feel approachable. You could complete step 1 in less than 15 minutes, and by completing just that one step, you already build momentum toward finishing the larger task. Momentum is key here. Procrastination thrives when we never start, because starting is often the hardest part. Once you take action, even on a tiny step, you shift your mental state. Progress creates motivation. Psychologists often call this the progress principle. The feeling of making even a small advancement toward a goal provides a surge of positive emotion and energy. In other words, action breeds motivation, not the other way around. Too many people wait to feel motivated before beginning. But breaking a task into smaller steps allows you to start before motivation arrives, and then motivation catches up with you. Another way to understand the power of small steps is to think about the difference between goals and systems. A goal might be to get fit or learn Spanish, but these are broad and daunting. A system is a repeatable, concrete step you can take, such as do 10 push-ups today or learn 5 new Spanish words this morning. When you focus on systems, these small, repeatable actions, you make consistent progress without being paralyzed by the enormity of the goal. Over time, the small steps compound. 10 push-ups today might feel trivial, but if you increase slowly and consistently, in 3 months you might be doing 100. 5 words today may not make you fluent, but over a year it adds up to more than 1,800 words, enough for meaningful conversations. Breaking tasks into smaller steps also reduces fear of failure. When faced with a huge project, the thought of failing looms large. It feels as though one mistake could collapse the entire effort. But when the task is just a single, simple step like writing 1 paragraph or cleaning 1 drawer, the risk of failure is minimal. Even if it doesn't go perfectly, it is easy to correct, and you can always move on to the next small step. This lowers the emotional barrier to starting, because the cost of failure is tiny. Over time, as you stack completed small steps, you build confidence. You prove to yourself that you can make progress, and this confidence counteracts the hesitation that drives procrastination. There is also a cognitive benefit to small steps. Clarity. When a task is large and undefined, the brain struggles to focus because it doesn't know what the very next action should be. This uncertainty creates mental resistance. But when you define the next step with precision, open the document and type the title, or spend 5 minutes gathering clothes from the floor, you eliminate uncertainty. Your brain now knows exactly what to do, and clarity leads directly to action. This is why many productivity experts emphasize the power of asking yourself, what is the very next action? That simple question forces you to zoom in from the overwhelming big picture to the small, manageable piece right in front of you. Real-world examples of this technique can be seen everywhere. Athletes don't start training by running a marathon. They begin with short distances and gradually increase. Musicians don't learn an entire concerto in one sitting. They practice 1 passage, 1 scale, or even 1 hand at a time. Entrepreneurs don't launch a full business overnight. They test a small product, gather feedback, and iterate. In each case, progress is built step by step. The same principle applies to beating procrastination. Whatever the task, breaking it down transforms it from intimidating to achievable. One practical exercise is to write down a daunting task and then break it into the smallest possible actions. For example, instead of clean the kitchen, you Might write: 1. Clear the dishes from the table. To load the dishwasher. 3. Wipe down counters. 4. Sweep the floor. Each step is clear and finite. When you check off the first one, you get a small win, which motivates you to tackle the next. Even if you stop halfway, you've still made tangible progress, which is far better than doing nothing at all. Another method is chunking time. If a project still feels overwhelming even after breaking it down, limit your work to a set period, such as 15 or 20 minutes. Tell yourself, I will only work on this for 15 minutes. More often than not, once you begin, you will continue beyond the time limit because the hardest part starting is already behind you. And even if you stop after 15 minutes, you've still made progress. And tomorrow you can add another chunk. Finally, it is important to remember that breaking tasks into smaller steps is not about lowering standards or doing less. It is about creating a structure that makes doing the work realistic and sustainable. In fact, breaking tasks down often leads to higher quality outcomes, because you can focus deeply on each piece without feeling overwhelmed. Instead of rushing through a massive task at the last minute, which is what procrastination usually forces us to do, you can approach each small step with care and attention. The habit of procrastination thrives on avoidance, vagueness, and fear of the big picture. By breaking tasks into smaller steps, you eliminate those triggers. You replace avoidance with action, vagueness with clarity, and fear with confidence. Over time, this habit becomes automatic. You stop saying, I need to finish this huge project, and start saying, what is the next small step I can take right now? That simple shift in mindset is enough to transform procrastination into consistent progress. Setting realistic deadlines is another crucial strategy for overcoming procrastination, because it transforms vague intentions into concrete commitments. When we procrastinate, one of the most common reasons is that tasks lack structure. If a project has no clear deadline, or the deadline feels distant and abstract, our brains interpret it as not. This creates the illusion that we can always do it later, which leads to endless postponement. Conversely, when a deadline is too ambitious, like trying to finish a week's worth of work in a single day, it triggers anxiety and discouragement, which also fuels procrastination. Striking the balance between urgency and achievability is where realistic deadlines come into play. The first benefit of setting deadlines is that it forces clarity. When you attach a date to a task, it stops being optional in your mind. It now has a specific time frame. For example, compare these two statements. I need to start exercising versus I will go for a 20-minute jog on Tuesday at 7 a.m. The second one is infinitely more actionable, because the deadline transforms a wish into a plan. That sense of specificity reduces the mental wiggle room procrastination thrives on. However, the key word here is realistic. Setting deadlines that are too tight often backfires. Imagine promising yourself you will finish a 50-page report in 2 hours. Instead of motivating you, the impossible standard overwhelms you. You may not even attempt to start because failure feels inevitable. On the other hand, setting no deadline at all leaves the task in limbo, allowing procrastination to dominate. A realistic deadline falls somewhere in between. It challenges you, but it is also achievable given your circumstances, energy levels, and other commitments. One helpful technique is breaking large projects into milestones with their own mini. Instead of saying the entire project is due in 3 weeks, you might create smaller checkpoints. Research by the end of week 1. Outline by the middle of week 2, draft by the end of week 2, and final edits in week 3. These mini reduce the risk of cramming everything into the last minute, which not only causes stress but also lowers the quality of the work. By spreading the load across realistic checkpoints, you encourage steady progress while keeping the overall deadline in view. Another powerful concept to understand here is Parkinson's law. Work expands to fill the time available for its completion. If you give yourself a month to write a 2-page paper, chances are it will take you a month. You will procrastinate, stretch the process, and possibly end up rushing near the end anyway. But if you set a realistic but shorter deadline, say 2 days, you will often find that you can finish it in that time without sacrificing quality. Deadlines help counteract this tendency by creating healthy pressure. The trick is to set deadlines that prevent endless expansion of work, without being so strict that they become unrealistic. Accountability can also enhance the effectiveness of deadlines. If you keep deadlines only in your head, it is easy to ignore them. But if you share them with a friend, colleague, or mentor, you add an external layer of responsibility. For instance, telling a friend, I'll send you the first draft by Thursday evening, creates a social incentive to follow through. Humans are wired to care about how others perceive us, and this psychological factor can help keep procrastination in check. Similarly, apps and productivity tools that track progress and send reminders can serve as external accountability, nudging you to honor the deadlines you set. It is also worth noting that deadlines are not just about finishing tasks. They are also about creating rhythm and balance in your life. Without deadlines, tasks can expand endlessly and bleed into other areas of your time. This lack of boundaries often leads to stress and burnout, which ironically trigger more procrastination. Realistic deadlines help you allocate your energy wisely. If you know a task is due at a specific time, you can plan rest, social activities, and other responsibilities around it. This balance is essential, because procrastination is often linked not just to laziness, but to poor energy management and the absence of structured rest. There is also a psychological benefit to meeting deadlines: confidence. Every time you set and meet a realistic deadline, you reinforce the belief that you can trust yourself. This self-trust is vital. Procrastinators often struggle with self-doubt, telling themselves they will fail or never follow through. But when you consistently prove to yourself that you can meet deadlines, whether big or small, you strengthen your identity as someone who gets things done. Over time, this reduces the mental resistance to starting, because you no longer see tasks as insurmountable. You see them as commitments you are capable of fulfilling. Of course, flexibility is necessary. Life is unpredictable, and even with realistic deadlines, obstacles will appear: illness, unexpected responsibilities, or simply underestimating the time a task requires. This is why it is important to build a buffer. Instead of scheduling everything down to the last second, leave space for adjustments. A deadline should guide you, not punish you. If you miss one, reflect on why. Was it too ambitious, or did you allow distractions to steal your time? Use the answer to adjust your next set of deadlines. With practice, you get better at gauging what realistic means for you. Let's apply this with an example. Imagine you need to prepare a presentation for work. If the deadline is 1 month away, you might be tempted to ignore it until the last week. Instead, you could create smaller, realistic deadlines. Decide on the topic in 2 days. Complete research in 1 week. Design slides in the 2nd week, rehearse in the 3rd week, and polish everything in the final few days. Each step has its own deadline, and because they are realistic, you are more likely to stick to them. By the time the final deadline arrives, you are prepared and calm, rather than stressed and scrambling. Ultimately, setting realistic deadlines is about creating structure that balances urgency with achievability. Deadlines remove ambiguity, prevent procrastination from creeping in, and provide momentum through consistent progress. They also protect your time, reduce last-minute stress, and build confidence in your ability to follow through. Instead of seeing deadlines as constraints, think of them as tools, guidelines that help you move forward without overwhelm. When paired with the strategy of breaking tasks into smaller steps, realistic deadlines transform procrastination from an endless cycle of delay into a disciplined rhythm of steady accomplishment. Eliminating distractions is one of the most powerful yet often overlooked ways to combat procrastination. Our environment profoundly shapes our behavior, and in today's world, distractions are everywhere. Buzzing phones, constant notifications, endless scrolling on social media, or even clutter on our desks. Procrastination often isn't just about laziness. It's about allowing these distractions to hijack our focus. By deliberately reducing or removing them, we create a space where deep work can thrive and procrastination loses its grip. To understand the role of distractions in procrastination, it helps to recognize how our brains work. Focus is a finite resource. Each time we allow ourselves to be interrupted, whether by a ping from a messaging app or by the temptation of checking an email, we fragment our attention. It can take up to 20 minutes to fully regain concentration after an interruption. This means that even just a quick check can derail an entire work session. The more fragmented our focus, the more likely we are to delay returning to important tasks. Feeding the procrastination cycle. The first step in eliminating distractions is identifying them honestly. Distractions are not the same for everyone. For some, the main culprit is the smartphone, constantly within reach. For others, it may be background noise, a cluttered workspace, or even people around them. Keeping a short distraction journal for a few days can be eye-opening. Every time you avoid a task, write down what pulled your attention away. Patterns will quickly emerge, revealing your personal procrastination triggers. Once you know your distractions, you can design your environment to minimize them. For digital distractions, simple but effective strategies include turning off non-essential notifications, putting your phone on airplane mode, or using apps that block social media during work hours. Tools like website blockers allow you to create focus zones, preventing you from accessing tempting sites while working. If your phone is particularly addictive, try physically placing it in another room. Out of sight, out of mind is more powerful than many realize. For physical distractions, decluttering your workspace can have a surprisingly strong effect. A messy desk often becomes a visual reminder of unfinished tasks, creating mental noise. That fuels procrastination. By keeping only the essentials on your desk, you create a cleaner, calmer environment where your mind can settle into the task at hand. Noise is another common distraction. If you work in a noisy environment, noise-canceling headphones or ambient background sounds like instrumental music or white noise can help create a cocoon of focus. Beyond external distractions, Internal distractions, our own thoughts, can also lead to procrastination. Worrying about unrelated issues, daydreaming, or replaying conversations in your mind can eat up focus. To manage this, practices like mindfulness or meditation are highly effective. Training yourself to gently notice when your mind has wandered and bring it back builds the mental muscle of focus. Similarly, keeping a notepad nearby allows you to quickly jot down intrusive thoughts, like remembering to buy groceries without letting them spiral into procrastination. Another key tactic is to set boundaries with others. Many people procrastinate because they are interrupted by colleagues, friends, or family. While you may not always control your environment completely, you can communicate your focus needs. For example, letting your coworkers know you'll be unavailable for the next hour, or placing a small do not disturb signal on your desk, can protect your focus time. Even at home, telling family members that you need 30 minutes of uninterrupted time can significantly reduce external interruptions. Time blocking also plays a crucial role in distraction management. By scheduling specific periods for focused work and others for breaks, you train your brain to expect and respect those boundaries. During a focus block, distractions are minimized to the greatest extent possible. During breaks, you can give yourself permission to check your phone or chat with others. This structured approach prevents distractions from bleeding into your entire day. For example, the Pomodoro technique, 25 minutes of focus followed by a 5-minute break, is a simple but effective way to balance focus and rest while keeping distractions at bay. It is also worth mentioning that some procrastination-related distractions are actually avoidance mechanisms. For instance, cleaning your room or organizing files may feel productive, but if it is done to avoid an important task, it becomes disguised procrastination. Recognizing the difference between genuine needs and avoidance behaviors is essential. A useful question to ask yourself is, am I doing this because it truly needs to be done now, or because I'm avoiding something harder? This self-awareness helps you catch and redirect procrastination disguised as productivity. Over time, the goal is not to eliminate every possible distraction, because life will always contain interruptions, but to minimize their power over you. You want to design an environment where the path of least resistance leads to focus, not procrastination. For instance, if you are trying to write, opening your laptop to a blank Word document instead of your email inbox makes starting easier. If you want to read more, keeping a book on your desk instead of your phone within reach changes what you gravitate toward. The cumulative impact of reducing distractions is profound. Every time you complete a focused session without interruptions, you build momentum. Procrastination loses its hold because tasks no longer feel impossible. They simply require dedicated attention. Moreover, focused work sessions often end up shorter than expected because without distractions, you accomplish more in less time. This creates a positive feedback loop. Fewer distractions lead to more progress, which builds motivation, which further reduces procrastination. In essence, procrastination thrives in environments full of easy escapes. Social media, constant notifications, clutter, and noise all offer quick relief from the discomfort of starting or sticking with a task. By consciously designing your environment to reduce these temptations, you give yourself the gift of focus. Eliminating distractions does not eliminate effort. Work will still require energy, but it removes many of the obstacles that cause us to delay. Instead of battling constant interruptions, you can channel your energy directly into meaningful progress. With practice, distraction-free focus becomes not just a tool for productivity, but a habit that transforms your relationship with work and procrastination. Another powerful way to overcome procrastination is to reward yourself for completing tasks. Human behavior is largely shaped by rewards. When our brains associate effort with pleasure, we are far more likely to repeat that effort in the future. Procrastination thrives when tasks feel like pure obligation, full of stress and devoid of joy. But when you introduce rewards, you shift the experience from something heavy and avoidable into something lighter, more motivating, and even, at times, enjoyable. The psychology behind this lies in the brain's reward system, particularly the release of dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that drives motivation and reinforces behavior. Every time you achieve something and reward yourself, your brain experiences a small burst of dopamine, making you want to repeat the behavior. If procrastination is a habit shaped by escaping discomfort, rewarding yourself creates a new habit, shaped by associating effort with positive outcomes. Rewards do not need to be extravagant or expensive. In fact, small, immediate rewards often work best because they create a quick feedback loop. For example, finishing a report might earn you a cup of your favorite coffee, a short walk outside, or watching a 5-minute funny video. Larger goals can be tied to bigger rewards, like going out for dinner, buying something you've wanted, or planning a day trip. The key is to link the completion of a task to something you genuinely enjoy, creating anticipation instead of dread. To use rewards. Effectively, it helps to break large tasks into smaller milestones. Procrastination often occurs because big tasks feel overwhelming and endless. By dividing them into manageable steps, you create more opportunities to reward yourself along the way. For instance, instead of waiting until an entire essay is written, to celebrate, reward yourself after completing the introduction, then again after finishing the body paragraphs. This keeps momentum alive and prevents the feeling of being stuck in a never-ending tunnel. However, it's important to ensure that rewards are tied directly to completing tasks, not avoiding them. Many people fall into the trap of rewarding themselves prematurely, for example, binge-watching a show before starting work, promising they'll make up for it later. This is actually procrastination disguised as a reward system. True rewards must come after the effort, not before. A simple rule to follow is, work first, then reward. One effective strategy is to create a reward menu. Write down a list of enjoyable, meaningful, or relaxing activities you can use as rewards, ranging from small to big. This could include taking a nap, calling a friend, having a favorite snack, playing a game, or spending guilt-free time on social media. Having this menu ready prevents you from scrambling to decide on a reward and ensures you don't accidentally default to procrastination instead. You can also make rewards more powerful by combining them with accountability. For example, telling a friend you will only watch a movie together if you complete your tasks creates both motivation and external reinforcement. Similarly, using habit tracking apps that celebrate progress with streaks, badges, or visual progress bars adds a layer of gamification that makes work feel more rewarding in itself. Even something as simple as checking off a to-do list can trigger satisfaction and serve as a small psychological reward. Another overlooked reward strategy is building in procrastination time as a conscious reward. Instead of battling the urge to scroll your phone or watch YouTube, you schedule it as a treat for after-focused work. For instance, you might say, after 45 minutes of studying, I get 10 minutes of guilt-free Instagram scrolling. This way, the distraction becomes a reward rather than a thief of your productivity. Flipping the script on procrastination, it's also worth noting that rewards can be intrinsic as well as extrinsic. Extrinsic rewards are external pleasures, like food, entertainment, or purchases. Intrinsic rewards are the internal feelings of accomplishment, growth, and pride you get from completing something meaningful. Learning to savor intrinsic rewards is incredibly powerful in fighting procrastination. When you finish a difficult task, take a moment to acknowledge it. I did this, I followed through. Over time, that feeling becomes addictive in itself, fueling motivation. The challenge with reward systems is balance. If rewards are too frequent or too large, they lose their motivational power and can even become distractions. On the other hand, if they are too rare, the brain doesn't form a strong connection between effort and enjoyment. A good rule of thumb is to keep rewards proportional to effort. Small tasks deserve small treats, while big accomplishments deserve bigger celebrations. Finally, rewards work best when paired with discipline. The system only functions if you hold yourself accountable to the work first, reward later rule. At first, this may feel difficult, especially if you are used to indulging in distractions immediately. But with consistency, your brain begins to anticipate the reward after effort, making it easier to stay on track. Over time, the act of completing tasks becomes rewarding in itself, and the need for external treats diminishes. In conclusion, procrastination often thrives because tasks feel punishing while avoidance feels rewarding. By flipping this dynamic, making effort rewarding and avoidance costly, you rewire your habits. Rewards create positive momentum, turning progress into a source of satisfaction rather than stress, whether it's a small break, a favorite snack, or simply the pride of accomplishment. Rewarding yourself makes tasks less intimidating and procrastination less appealing. When you combine this with clear goals and reduced distractions, you build a sustainable system where progress becomes not just achievable, but enjoyable. Perhaps the most profound way to overcome procrastination is by addressing the deeper mindset that fuels it. Unlike tactical strategies such as breaking tasks down or rewarding yourself, shifting your mindset changes how you fundamentally view challenges, work, and yourself. Procrastination often isn't about laziness, it's about fear, self-doubt, or limiting beliefs. When you challenge these thought patterns, you dismantle the very foundation procrastination relies on. One of the most common thought traps is perfectionism. Many procrastinators delay starting tasks because they believe their work must be flawless from the very beginning. This mindset creates paralyzing pressure, leading to avoidance. The way to overcome this is to embrace progress over perfection. Remind yourself that messy beginnings are necessary steps toward improvement, and no masterpiece starts as a masterpiece. By adopting a progress, not perfection mindset, you free yourself to begin tasks without the fear of immediate excellence. Closely tied to perfectionism is the fear of failure. Procrastination is often a defense mechanism. If you don't try, you can't fail. Unfortunately, this also means you never succeed. To counter this, reframing failure as feedback is essential. Instead of seeing mistakes as evidence of incompetence, view them as stepping stones to growth. Every failure provides data, insight, and resilience. Many of the world's greatest innovators, from Thomas Edison to modern entrepreneurs, achieved success precisely because they failed repeatedly but used each failure as fuel. When you internalize this mindset, starting a task becomes less frightening because failure loses its sting. Another mindset shift involves how you interpret discomfort. Procrastination thrives on the belief that discomfort should be avoided at all costs. Writing a report, studying for an exam, or preparing a presentation may feel mentally taxing, so the brain convinces you to delay. But discomfort is not danger, it is growth in disguise. When you accept that discomfort is part of meaningful progress, you stop running from it. A powerful mantra is, discomfort is the price of growth. By normalizing effort and difficulty, you reduce procrastination's persuasive power. It's also vital to address identity. People often label themselves with fixed traits. I'm just a procrastinator. I'm not disciplined, or I've never been productive. These statements become self-fulfilling prophecies. Shifting your mindset requires rewriting your self-story. Instead of saying, I procrastinate, try, I am learning to manage procrastination. Instead of, I'm lazy, say, I am practicing consistency. These subtle changes shift you from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, where change is possible and effort matters. Over time, your identity aligns with your actions, and procrastination becomes less compatible with who you believe yourself to be. Another helpful reframe is seeing time as an ally rather than an enemy. Procrastinators often feel overwhelmed by deadlines or view time as slipping away, which creates anxiety and paralysis. But when you view time as a resource you can actively shape, you feel empowered rather than trapped. Techniques like time blocking or the Pomodoro method embody this mindset. Time becomes a structure that supports you rather than a looming threat. Each block of time is an opportunity to invest in your goals, and even small efforts compound. Over time, gratitude and long-term perspective also play a role in mindset. Procrastination narrows your focus to short-term comfort. Avoiding a task now feels better than doing it. But when you zoom out and think about who you want to be in 1 year, 5 years, or 10 years, the value of consistent effort becomes clear. Ask yourself, will my future self thank me for this? This simple question reframes the task from a momentary burden into an investment in your future. When you see each action as a vote for the person you want to become, procrastination loses its allure. Mindset work also benefits from mindfulness. Procrastination is often driven by automatic, unconscious reactions: grabbing your phone, distracting yourself, or spiraling inside. By practicing mindfulness, you train yourself to notice these urges without acting on them. You can pause, breathe, and ask, is this choice aligned with my values? This mindful gap between impulse and action is where procrastination loses its automatic control. Over time, you develop greater self-awareness and resilience against distraction. Of course, shifting mindset takes time. It's not a quick fix, but a gradual rewiring of thought patterns. Affirmations, journaling, therapy, or coaching can all help reinforce these new perspectives. The key is consistency. Each time you challenge a limiting belief or reframe a negative thought, you strengthen new neural pathways. Eventually, starting tasks feels less like a battle against yourself and more like a natural expression of your values and goals. In essence, procrastination thrives on distorted thinking. I'll do it later. It has to be perfect. I'm not capable. Shifting your mindset means challenging these thoughts, replacing them with empowering beliefs, and aligning your actions with who you want to become. When you see effort as growth, failure as feedback, discomfort as normal, and yourself as capable of change, procrastination loses its psychological grip. This is the deepest and most lasting solution because it transforms the way you relate to challenges. While tools and techniques provide short-term relief, mindset shifts ensure you don't fall back into old patterns. By changing the way you think, you change the way you act. And by changing the way you act, you reshape your life one choice, one task, one mindset shift at a time. So, overcoming procrastination isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about making small shifts, breaking tasks into steps, setting deadlines, rewarding yourself, staying consistent, and most importantly, changing the way you think about challenges. Every small action you take is a step closer to the person you want to become. If today's video gave you even one idea that can help you beat procrastination and move forward, make sure to hit the like button. And if you want more practical tips on personal growth and building better habits, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. Remember, your future self is counting on you. Take action today, not tomorrow. Let's grow together, one step at a time. See you in the next video.